I promise this video is about jiu-jitsu training, martial arts training, and making you better at that. But we're going to start out with a paddling story. I was on the river today, and I was paddling a very, very easy section of river. If you know whitewater grading, is about a half, not a grade 1, a grade half. It's moving water, maybe moving at 5 miles an hour in the fastest parts, and very, very safe. The thing is though, across the river, there's ropes, and hanging from these ropes are gates. They're called slalom gates. So there's an Olympic sport where you run slalom gates in hard white water, and it involves a lot of rotation. As long as your body makes it through the gate, that's awesome. And there's certain gates you have to go through upstream and certain gates you have to go downstream. So I was doing this in my playboat, which is a specialized whitewater boat. And there's a couple things that this achieves. Number one, it constrains your options. You can't go from side to side or up and down the river any way you want. You have to be in a specific place and sort of at a specific time, which is as fast as possible. Right, there is an urgency here, but you have to be precise at the same time. So you're constrained. You can't do everything that you want. Also, it lowers the cost of failure. Let's say you and I are on a canoe trip way up north, northern Canada, and we're going down a section of whitewater, and we hit a rock, and the boat begins to bend around the rock, and then it flips, and now we're in the water, and the boat fills up with water, comes off the rock, and goes downstream. I've had similar things happen. It's not a good day because the cost of failure is so high. We've just failed, and our gear is spread across the river, right? There's the backpack with the food, there's the backpack with the tent. They're going in opposite directions. There's the boat, there's you. And trying to get everything to shore and everything squared away, that can be like a half-day adventure. And it's even assuming that we get everything to shore. Now maybe we're dealing with a broken boat and a lost paddle or a cracked paddle. And how are we going to fix that paddle out in the bush? How are we going to fix that boat out in the bush? It can be done, but it's a giant ordeal. We've just taken a failure event and turned it into now an epic adventure. It's a big deal. We'll pick another example. I want to climb K2 or Mount Everest or any other really difficult, really high peak. The Matterhorn or the north face of the Eiger. I should not train for climbing the north face of the Eiger by climbing the north face of the Eiger. I shouldn't train for climbing Mount Everest by only climbing Mount Everest. If I do that, I'm going to have a very short alpinism career or mountaineering career, and I'm going to die because the consequences of failure are so high. I want to make all my mistakes in the rock climbing gym, where if I fall off of a wall and land on the mat, the very worst that happens to me is I sprain an ankle. And if I do that 1,000 times, that might happen once. 999 times, I'm going to be okay. If I fall off of Mount Everest, most of the time I'm going to die. And even if I don't die, if I end up dangling from a 500-foot rope, at that elevation, with those temperatures, in those conditions, me rescuing myself or maybe having some help getting rescued, it's still going to be an epic adventure. And by adventure, I don't mean a good adventure. I mean a really bad day. So, by going to the rock climbing gym, we're lowering the cost of failure for climbing Mount Everest. We should also be, climbing an ice wall close to our homes, close to a hospital, while top roped, so that if we fall off, maybe we scrape our face, maybe a small chunk of ice falls on our head, but generally no big deal. I make all my stupid mistakes in the easy places. So then how do I make it harder? The climbing gym doesn't resemble Mount Everest. The local ice wall is too easy. It doesn't resemble some crazy slope on K2. Well, that's okay. You set yourself constraints, right? If you're on a climbing wall, you don't use every hold. You use only the yellow hold for this route. When you succeed at the yellow hold route, you go to the red hold route. I don't know how they're graded. I'm not a rock climber. But I do know that there are different routes that based on different handholds. Similarly, say you want to fight MMA or compete at the Mundials. Your plan shouldn't be to primarily do your training at jiu-jitsu tournaments. To be fair, there have been guys who, after they got to a certain level, their only training was fighting every weekend. And that's a terrible plan for longevity, but it has been done. A much safer and better plan, and that's followed by almost all the pros, is to do most of the fighting in the gym and then only occasionally fighting in the ring or at the tournament. For each person who's going to be at the Abu Dhabi this year, and each match that they have in Abu Dhabi, how many matches do you think they've had off the mat? It's probably 1,000 to 1. They've probably had 1,000 rolls or maybe 2,000 rolls in the last year for each one roll that they're going to do on the mats at Abu Dhabi. Furthermore, they're doing things to lower the cost of failure. They're going to be training, for the most part, reasonably easily, reasonably lightly. If they get caught in an armbar with a training partner, that training partner is not going to be cranking it as hard as they can, because that would injure them, would set them back, and it would reduce the total amount of training they get. So that's one simple way of reducing the cost of failure. Another way that I really like doing is by positionally sparring. All you're going to do is, get out a turtle. Try and attack from turtle, and all I'm going to do is try and take your back. And if I take your back, I get a point. If you get out a turtle and we end up in any other position, you get a point. So that's situational sparring. We can reduce the cost of failure in training one more step by doing what Rob Bernanke calls fuck your jiu-jitsu training. It's almost not even sparring. It is a form of sparring, but it's heavily constrained sparring. So let's say I want to work on my half guard sweep attacks. The problem is, if I'm going against you and you're my size and my weight and my skill level or better, I essentially might get 2 reps of that attack in, and it's not guaranteed it's going to work. Let's say I try it and it doesn't work. You're going to pass my half guard and you're going to smash me. I'm going to spend the rest of the round defending against your chokes and your arm bars and just your cross-face pressure and trying not to get my ear, which has mostly survived, semi-cauliflowered, trying to stop it from getting fully cauliflowered. That's the problem. There's a reasonably high cost of failure. I tried an attack, it didn't work, and I paid the price. So now if we constrain you and say, all you're allowed to do is to post, to not get swept, and engage in light grip fighting. You're lightly allowed to grip fight. You're not heavily allowed to strip every grip as hard as you can or as soon as I get it. Light grip fighting and posting. You're not allowed to lock onto me and hold me down. You're not allowed to pass my guard. That then, and we do a round like that, where I can do anything, I get a whole bunch of reps in. I can go through a whole bunch of slalom gates on the river. I can climb a whole bunch of yellow roots in the rock climbing gym. You see what I'm getting at? By constraining the options, especially in this case, this last example of what you can do, I can try and do more things. And I can get more reps in. And ultimately, it's reps under some kind of pressure that build the base of your game. Now, of course, if you're going to go, we'll go in order. If I'm going to go paddle a difficult river way up, if you and I are going to go paddle a difficult river way up north, we also have to do more than just run slalom gates. We also have to do easier stretches of whitewater way down south where there's, where we can get back to our homes if we wrap the boat around a rock. And then do harder whitewater. We have to do hard whitewater at some point, but it's not full cost of failure. We'll train our skills up to an 8, and then in the bush, we'll stay no higher than a 5. We're going to stay a full grade of whitewater lower than what we know we're capable of because we want that buffer to be there. But we still have to push ourselves, but most of our training should be skills-based training with precision. As we're going down the river, if we're not running gates anymore, I'm going to hit that eddy. And then from that eddy, I'm going to go to that eddy, and I'm going to surf that wave, and then I'm going to go down river, as opposed to just going down river, I made it. That you didn't learn that much. The rock climbing example. Of course, if you're going to climb Mount Everest, you have to climb other difficult mountains. So it's a training pyramid. The base of it is a whole bunch of skills-based training. Maybe you spend the winter in the climbing gym. The weather conditions get a bit better. You go out, you start climbing more easy mountains. but you're still constraining stuff. You're not going to climb Mount Everest probably by the hardest route. You're going to climb Mount Everest, if it's your first time, by the easiest route. But that doesn't mean on the local mountain you're going to go up there by the easiest route. You're going to pick a route that challenges you. Out of all the possible routes, you're constraining yourself to the route that meets your training objective. Now in the gym, the bulk of your training, the base of your training, should be relatively easy, relatively constrained training based on precision, where you're trying to get really good at something, be it an armbar, be it a sweep, be it an escape, be it a certain movement, be it a certain timing. Then you do need hard rounds, but that's still constrained. And then as the pinnacle, as the expression, as the final culmination, that's when you go and compete. Anyway, from slalom gates on a very easy section of river to climbing Mount Everest to the Abu Dhabi competition, I figure it's a totally logical progression, and I hope those thoughts helped.